Hello and welcome to another episode of A Journey in Boots from Trauma to Triumph. I'm your co-host, Dorothy Odell, owner of Unstoppable Overcomers Productions. And we have the amazing Dr. Jade Royster, who survived Hurricane Milton in Florida. I'm glad she's alive and here.
And we have power. Yes. We did not have power for a long time, but we got power now.
Yay. That's the main thing. She's safe. We've got power, and I'm happy about that. Dr. J is also the owner of Semper Modus. So would you like to speak a little bit about what Semper Modus does, ma'am?
Sure. Served in the military and first responders and spouses of first responders in the military, and also work for police departments who serve those who serve and their families. So we are there. Any kind of challenge that you're facing, we are there to help you overcome it.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for all that you do. Mm-hmm. And I'm super excited. I've been waiting for this amazing lady to come on our show for quite some time. So I would love to bring to the stage Melissa Washington. Welcome to the stage,
Thank
Melissa.
you. So glad to be here.
Absolutely. So
Awesome.
Melissa is an award-winning advocate, a speaker, author, entrepreneur, CEO, publisher, and proud Navy veteran. She wears many hats, yet woven throughout her diverse pursuit is a mission of service and a passion to empower her fellow women veterans. I love that. Welcome.
Thank you. So again, so glad to be here. Thanks for reaching out to me.
Absolutely. You know, we have the show. We've
Air Force veteran, thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Sorry, I said as an Air Force veteran, I said thank you for your service.
Yes. Thank you and thank you. Thank you for thanking me and thank you for your service.
Absolutely.
Well, you're worth it.
This is going to be fun tonight. We're going to have delays, but that's okay.
I actually, I was honored to be stuck in a hurricane with Miss Sabrina Johnson, who happens to be a Navy Seabee. So our winds with her here. So it is really slow.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
It is. There is a delay, but we'll go with it. So Melissa, tell us a little bit about your journey before, like what made you decide to join the Navy?
Let's see. Well, the Army and the recruiters the Army recruiters and the Marine Corps recruiters weren't there. Air Force. So because most places when you join the military, it's just like a strip mall, right? And you've got all the branches of service, and the Marine Corps, they had that pull-up bar, so not much of interest to me because I definitely wouldn't have been able to do that even at 18 years old. Just want to serve my country, look for opportunity to get away. I was going to community college at that time, getting my certification in early child education because that was my goal, was to become a preschool teacher. So I joined at 18, and nobody believed me that I joined the military. Yep. And 30 something years ago, I shipped off to Orlando, Florida for boot camp.
Wow. So you just decided they were there, and that's why you decided to go into the Navy. Have you always had a passion to serve your country, or?
No, I mean, I've had a passion to serve, maybe not specifically in the military. It was interesting too, just going through the whole recruiting process, because they were very nervous because I was the first girl that they put in. So it was very, making sure they handled everything right. And so that was interesting, even though they told me all the wrong stuff I was supposed to bring to boot camp, because I had to ship a lot of stuff back, but they didn't know. So it was a good experience. It wasn't, it was, they just didn't know. And it's okay.
That's all right. Maybe they were just learning as they went too. I mean,
I think so. I think so. They definitely like to go to Sizzler because I probably went at least 2 or 3 times. Like, okay, we need to talk to you and let's go to Sizzler, fill out the paperwork. Like, okay.
I remember that. Yeah, I went to Denny's, but I can appreciate that.
See? I don't know what it. I mean, they probably have a little stipend or something. They got to, take their recruits out to, run the delayed entry
Yes.
program to someplace to eat. And Sizzler was like across the street from the recruiting station.
Yeah, they actually drove me down to Lansing, so that was interesting. And I was one of the first go recruits from that office. It was very rare that they had women, so I had a similar challenge. He told me to take way too many tampons. That was the thing.
Right, you get it.
One of many challenges.
Right? I had to ship my underwear back. I had everything. I mean, I had like this big box of stuff I had to ship back.
wow,
Same.
I can't even imagine.
And you had to wait for a month to get, like almost a month to get your paycheck. And then, yeah, it was very challenging.
Yes. And I cut my hair because they said, "Oh, they're going to cut your hair," because my hair was a lot longer and a lot more fuller at that time. And it's like, "Oh, they're going to cut your hair." So I got it like chopped off before I went because I wasn't sure what kind of chopping that they were going to do there. So I would have been fine, but I would just had a ponytail. But it's probably a good thing I chopped it off before I went.
I had all my hair down to my waist.
Oof.
They didn't say anything about my hair, but it was a pain in the butt. Get it so that it wouldn't fall. That was the challenge because you got to make sure it's above the bottom of your collar. That was very challenging.
Yes.
My hair was definitely more wily back then.
Yes.
So when you went in, what did you do after basic training? What was your MLS?
Yes. So after basic training, I went to so the Navy calls it our A school, and so, of course, after I took the ASVAB test, they came back and they said, okay, these are the things that you can go in. And one of them, I don't even know how I scored it on the ASVAB for like electrician's technician. I have like zero aptitude for that. So I chose storekeeper, which is supply, which I'm like, okay, I could probably do some of that stuff. So after A school, I went to Meridian, Mississippi, and that's where the A school for storekeeper, the rate at the time, they made some changes to the rate, but that's where I went for that. So it was November, December there in Meridian, Mississippi, and that's where I would meet who would become my husband at that time in A school.
Okay. Yeah, a lot of people got married in A school. I can appreciate that. I wasn't one of them, but definitely that was a common thread. I remember, I was a drag racer, so I figured I'd be stuck being a mechanic because I had, extensive knowledge of how to tear down a transmission, put it back together. No, they put me in medical, and I'm like, what the? Why? Like, I knew nothing. That I do remember. I was pretty terrified. So did you have those feelings when you, got into that job?
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, you don't know. I mean, they want to teach you all this stuff, but we got to remember too. So I joined in 1991. So there was no, the internet is not as we know it today. There was no cell phones. There was no Google. Everything was DOS based. Everything was, little paper cards on how we had to keep inventory. So again, different times and learning a lot of new things and the way we do things. And then, he wasn't my husband at the time. After we finished A school, he went to the West Coast and I went to the East Coast, and we kind of just went our own ways at that time. But of course, however you score in A school is where you get to then pick your first assignment. So I wasn't number one, which is fine. But at this time, women, we were only limited to certain ships that we can go on at that time in 91. Right. We're coming into 92. And so I went to Little Creek, Virginia. I'm stationed on board a rescue salvage ship, the USS Grapple, out of Little Creek. So that was my first. I was now at 19 at that time because I turned 18 boot camp. So I went there and got on board the ship. And it's very interesting. The ship, it's a rescue salvage. So the primary focus is to salvage stuff that crashes in the water. So a majority of those that were on the ship are divers. And several months after I was there, we were getting ready to go on a 6-month deployment to the Mediterranean, which is not too bad when you're 19 and single and being able to see a lot of things, and really to go to all the countries in the Mediterranean.
Awesome. That itself right there would have been worth it. A lot of people say they come into the military for the free education, but I could say going through the Mediterranean would have been my thing.
Yes. And still have all the pictures, because again, we'll talk about there was no, so you had to like literally get the film developed back then. So, you have all these, everybody's taking pictures, like true pictures, like that kind of stuff. And then having that, and, in the Navy, we do cruise books. So I have from both of my first one, my med cruise, my 6-month deployment. And then when I got stationed in San Diego, went on a Westpac. So we have another cruise book, which is actually pretty cool to be able to flip through there and see all the places. And at least it's listed there. So you remember, oh yeah, that's right, I was in that port at that time. And, but what brought me to the West, so I grew up in California, going to the East Coast, it really wasn't a lot of my thing. It gets cold and it snows there, and I really don't like this. I don't like the snow and the cold. And they said also too, the West Coast Navy is a little bit more relaxed. I mean, it's still, it's still the military. So they said, well, if you want to go, so it's not like they said they'll do it for me. They said, well, if you want to go, you can do what's called a swap. I don't know if the Navy still does these at the time. So I had to find a woman, because it was a woman billet, that had equal time left rank as me. So at that time I was E4, and I found her. Again, no Google, none of that stuff. So having to call and having my chief call and like look who they knew that was in San Diego. And so then I was stationed on board the USS Acadia destroyer tender out of 32nd Street in San Diego there. And then I was able to reconnect with the guy that I met in A school, because he was stationed in Southern California. He's a Marine, was stationed there. So we're able to reconnect. So then I get on this ship, and for maybe a month or so, 2 months, they're like, we're going on a 6-month deployment. So I'm like, okay, which is great, because I already did this side. Now I get to go to the other side. So they call those a Westpac. And so first you go to Hawaii, which is, it's an amazing experience just to go to Pearl Harbor as a civilian, but to man the rails and to go into Pearl Harbor, I mean, even just gives me goosebumps right now, just thinking about that there. So yeah, so it was interesting going there. Also during this time, we were in the Operation Restore Hope. So we're in Somalia at the time. So if people aren't familiar with destroyer tenders, they aren't around anymore. But our focus was to tend the other destroyer ships. So we had our own internal, electricians, machine shop, and then you had the external. They helped all the destroyers with their stuff, so the destroyers can focus on their mission. So we went to Somalia. So the Christmas of '93, we're anchored off the coast of Somalia, supporting all the destroyers that were supporting everything that was happening on land there. So we went to Somalia, then we went to Hong Kong, after Japan, went to the Persian Gulf, spent some time in the Persian Gulf, and went to Bali. So I turned 21 in Bali, which was actually a pretty cool. Wow. Yes. Pretty fun time during that time.
That would have been.
Yes, it would. Yes, yeah. It's fun stuff. So, so 94 comes around, and President Clinton at that time was starting to downsize the military, right, closing bases. And so I said, I want to get out, because, Jared, who's my husband, was one of those guys that grew up wanting to be in the military. So he's like, I'm going to be in the military. I'm going to retire from the military. And I didn't want dual service. I didn't want both of us being deployed, because he deploys, I deploy, it's like, okay. So I asked to get out. Of course, there's always resistance, right? Mm-hmm. But during this time, because I was supposed to sit for the E5 exam, but I didn't, because I didn't want to sit for it. And then I make it, and then they try to say, oh, well, now you can't get out.
Right.
So this is when you had to do it was a chit. So you had to do, it was duplicate paper, right? So it had to go up the chain of command, this piece of paper, all the way up to get approval for me to get out. So I got out. September 94, got married October 94. So this is our 30th anniversary this month. And he deployed in November. So that was the beginning of our marriage, his 6-month deployment.
Wow.
Yes. And that's where my being, active duty ends, of course. And I did, the reserve time piece. But one of those things too, when I got out, I really didn't consider myself a veteran because like my dad's a veteran. He was in Vietnam, and that's, veterans. Right. And it's like, okay. And then I became a Marine Corps spouse. So then, I have this, different types of things with doing that. So that's that ends where I end my active duty. And of course, used my GI Bill, went back to school. We've used it for home loan, to buy our home.
Well, happy anniversary.
It took me a really long time. Same thing. I mean, it took me a really long time to acknowledge that I was a veteran because everybody says, well, you're in the Sheriff Force.
Yeah.
So it took me, almost 30 years to go to the VA. So I get it because I was a Marine spouse as well.
Oh, so yeah. That's a challenge in itself. So yes, I was. Yeah.
You are correct about that.
Yes.
So what brought you on the path you are on now? What were some of the challenges like you faced? You said that you were in the reserves. How long were you in the reserves? Did you retire out?
No. So I did. So they gave me, because I had to do 4 active and 4 reserve. I got out in 3. So I had to add that on to the reserves. So I was done because then again, my husband was still in, he's been out. He's retired now 16 years ago, but he did, over 20 years in the Marine Corps. So of course I went with him where he went to.
By the way, for anybody out there, just to let you know, Marines are not veterans. They are Marines. They're never veterans. They are Marines, and they will correct you.
Yes. Oh, and heaven forbid somebody calls him a soldier. Oh my gosh.
Yes. That's Army. Don't do that.
Yes. And it happened.
Service, man, I'm telling you, because they do. Mm-hmm. They get their little feathers ruffled. Even if you ask them what their favorite color crayon is, they still, if you call them a Marine, they get a lot less offended.
Yes.
But yeah, no soldier, no veteran. Marine.
Definitely.
All the time.
Yes. Oh, I know. Trust me. We'll go out. I work from home and I'm not traveling, and he works from home too. But we have the banter back and forth because, he was in Desert Storm in Iraq, but he also went on deployments on ships. So he also got to experience the ship, deployment experience. So he is familiar with, Navy terminology.
Well, I love that movie, A Few Good Men, for this part in particular, where Kiefer Sutherland says, I don't mind any of you Navy boys. You fellas always give us a ride, which is true. Like, have respect for the Navy just because they take them where they need to go. And like, that's important.
It is. Just absolutely. Yep. Yeah. It is. I know. So I forgot. I know we were on a question. I don't think I answered the question.
It's okay. We kind of bounced, so no
problem. What was the question that you asked, Dr. J? I honestly don't remember it. I was thinking of the movie when you said
I wanted to know about her transition. Yeah. I mean,
transition, right.
That'll send you in different directions every time. It's kind of like Tombstone. Yeah. A Few Good Men and Tombstone are the classics. So I was asking you about your transition. You said that you did reserve for the years that you had to, and then you were on your way, but on your way to where?
So, well, I'll tell you, my first job out of the military, this is back when you had to look at the newspaper and fax a resume.
You had fax? No, I'm just kidding.
So, I'm trying to look for a job before I got out. But one of the things, really cool thing about my ship, so I grew up in the Bay Area, and, my ship was in San Diego, and just so happens, literally, like, I think it was like the week before I was getting ready to get out, they had to do some kind of exercise up in Alameda. So that's where I'm from, which was great because I got to invite family and friends on board the ship so they can see all the things I do, even though I was getting ready to leave. But they got to do that. So I'm, knowing that my husband was getting ready to go on deployment after he got married, so I decided just to stay home, with my parents. So I was filling out, applications, submitting my resume. And so my first job out of the military was at a floor cleaning company. And the only reason that I got the job is because I knew how to operate a floor buffer.
That's important.
There we go. That's an important skill.
Yes, well, in the Navy, you stripped and waxed a deck. That's usually on Fridays, right? So I knew how to operate one of those machines. So I had an advantage. So we talk about transferable skills, and one of my transferable skills is knowing how to strip and wax a deck. So
It's a good skill. I ain't knocking it. It's a good skill.
It worked. So yeah, so from there, I was in, sales, regional sales, had my own recruiting company, did human resources and recruiting for 12 years. And then fast forward, or even in between that time, we were trying to have a baby and went through fertility treatments, starting at Balboa Naval Hospital, and then just went through all this stuff. So I couldn't leave. It was like, okay, this is not going to work. It's only so much time you can continue to poke yourself and be stabbed.
Right.
So at that time, he was in Los Angeles on recruiting duty. And so we were up there, and we decided we would adopt from the foster care system in Los Angeles County. So we started that process, which is a very intense process if anybody's ever become a foster care parent, as far as, the medical, the background checks, the house, all that stuff. And so what we wanted to do was adopt a child that would be concurrent. So they always want to, their intent is to reunite them back with their birth parents, right? That's the intent.
Mm-hmm.
Some of those birth parents, that shouldn't even be an option. They're just even not even considered. But okay, we'll play the game, right?
Mm-hmm.
So our intent was we would bring this child into our home with the intent to adopt. So they give you, as you complete all your stuff, they give you what's called a matching sheet. So you have to pretty much check, okay, we're interested. So we were interested in infant to 5, boy, girl, didn't matter. Certain disabilities. I mean, they break it down different. We didn't care on ethnicity. And so that was June of 2005. And, everybody wants a little girl, right? Everybody's like, oh, if you probably get a little boy, because everybody wants a girl. So we're done in June. The room's ready. We don't know if it's going to be infant to 5. And, they said we could be, a year or so for you here. Well, come August, a couple months later, we get the call about a 2.5-month-old baby girl. Oh. And so with that, you accept. I mean, you don't, it's not like you get to meet her and evaluate her or anything. It's like, oh yeah, I'll take her. It's just like, so then, I call my husband, he's like, yes. So end of August 2005, we got to meet her. She was in emergency foster care. And September 1st, we brought her home, and then started the whole process of foster care. She was our foster child, and got through all this process of, she has to visit with the birth parents, and then they got to terminate the parental rights. And then finally, 2 years later, we terminate that. So she's 19, Maya, our daughter. We love her very, very, very much. So we're very blessed to have her.
That is so awesome. I love it when you hear those stories when things actually work out.
Yes. And it was rough. It was rough at some time. There was some stuff, but I don't, you have to play, in a sense, sometimes you have to play the game, and it's LA County foster care. So you got to, there's the good and the bad, but, we got to play the game and do what we need to do, and do whatever we need to do to keep her in our lives. So she was our baby. I mean, that's, even though there was a 50-50 chance that she could have been, placed back with her birth parents, but she does have 2 older sisters, and we of course agreed to keep connected with them, and her middle sister and her are best friends. So they're not with the birth parents, they're with the grandma. Well, not anymore, because they're both adults,
Right.
But yeah, so she has a great relationship with her sisters.
That's so awesome. So here you are now. You have a 19-year-old. When did you decide to form Women's Veterans Alliance?
Yes. So I didn't decide. I decided to do a meetup, which ended up into Women Veterans Alliance. So in 2014, end of 2014, said, hey, I really wanted to network with other women, right? In more of a professional setting, not interested in the traditional legacy groups at that time. So January 2015 at El Torito's in Sacramento, got about 20 women together, officer enlisted, different branches. And we sat at that table. I just, imagine this long table at the restaurant, and we're just laughing and crying. And just, it was so, anyway, thinking about that connectivity that was happening at that table for these women who most of them didn't even know each other. But then to know that here they have someone that lives here, right, that they can identify with and connect with. So at this meetup, we decided, okay, we're going to meet the third Thursday of every month, and it would only be open to women veterans. And also, too, when I do say women veterans, it always means active duty, guard, and reserve. So any woman that's currently wearing the uniform or has worn the uniform. And we said, okay, we'll do that. And I said, all right, well, I will find a location for next month, and I'll get a speaker if anybody has suggestions. Some of the ladies ended up becoming speakers, so that's what we did. We would meet, and guess what? It continued to grow and to grow and to grow. It's like, okay, well, now we need it. Now it's okay. We have to have a name. Now I got to get a website. Now I got to do a Facebook page. All these things, and it was going fast. This was a hobby for me. This was just, hey, I'll do this on the side, because that previous year I had published my first book, Get Back to Work. And I also was doing LinkedIn speaking and training. So that was my main gig. And then I was doing this, but then all of a sudden everything, women veteran related, all that stuff became, that was me. What I share is, this is my purpose. That became my purpose, and it still is my purpose today, to be able to serve women and in a different way that has been done before with that. And so that's how Women Veterans Alliance started. And then the impact we've had over the last it'll be 10 years in January. So the first years, so it was a meetup group. It was a local meetup group, started, had a little chapter, and then we grew that one so much, it split off to another group in Sacramento. And then it was Northern California, then it was California, and then it was US, and now we're global.
That is so awesome. And I just have to say, today's 10/10, and you're 10 years this year. So it was meant to be that you were supposed to be on the show today.
Yes, we'll be 10 years in January. It'll be 10 years in January, but we're talking about it. So it's going to be some good stuff happening next year.
Well, there we go. That is so it started off as just like a networking meeting, but to my understanding, so not only do you have the online, you have like the website and things like that to connect different people together as well. You said you do summits in that too?
Yep. So we have
saying that?
Yeah. So the first year, what had happened was, since it was only open to women veterans, others wanted to join our meetups, and it was like, no, because it changes the dynamic of the group. So whether we're at a restaurant, in a conference center, a pizza place, right? It's something that's needed. It's needed to have that. So I said, okay, so July of that year, I said, okay, we're going to start doing mix and mingles every quarter, and then we can invite everybody. So that was a different event. We did every quarter for several years, where we had that, and that way employers could come, other VSOs can come, just other people can come and network, and different environment. But so in 2014, Calvet, the state VA, had the Women's Summit, and they didn't do one in 2015. And so then 2016 came around, and I'm like, well, you know what? We need to do something here for women. So I developed and put together what's called the Unconference. We just had our 7th one last year in Las Vegas. So that started in Northern California, but then we had women come from other areas, and then now it's California. So we had it 5 times in different places in California and 2 times in Las Vegas. And we're going to have it next year in September. The location will be announced by the end of this month. for that, because again, that's what women wanted. I mean, they wanted to have something that's different than what's out there.
I love that because you hear, I've heard about different groups for the men, or both men and women, but I love what you're doing here, especially for our female veterans. It's much needed. That way they can, open up, and share what they need to share, because I'm sure the female needs are completely different than the male needs. Whether that's still in service or even in retirement.
Yep. Well, and this has probably happened at every single event that we've had, whether it was a local meetup or, or in conference or anything. And women will say, I feel like I can take my mask off when I come here. I can be me. And I've had countless women will say, I was waiting in the parking lot. I wasn't sure if I was going to come in. Or they'll say, I started to come in, I walked back out, but then I came back in. I'm so glad I did.
I love that.
So it's like once we can get them in the door, right, and then to have that connectivity for them to be able to sit next to someone that starts talking about their experience or things or benefits. Women will say, I didn't know I can get those benefits. I was told I wasn't a veteran. I told I couldn't get them. But here you have a group of women, right? And we're all sitting there talking about it, breaking bread. And there's always got to be food with our things, right? You got to have food and talking and that, right? So it's very important to do that, to have that fellowship with women, and to be able to have that impact to where now, oh my gosh, now they've heard it from someone else. I had this one woman early on. I live close to Beale Air Force Base, and she was getting ready to retire. And I was telling her, I'm pumped. I'm like, yeah, we got this group. You got to come meet. We meet the third Thursday of the month. And she says, oh, well, I'm retired. I don't need that. And I said, well, what if somebody needs you?
Ooh, I love that.
And she's like, you know what? I didn't think of it that way, right? It's not always about you receiving. It's also about giving. So we create these environments where people, maybe one day all you're going to do is give, but then the next time you come because you need to receive.
Right.
And that's there. And women can promote their businesses if you're looking for a job. And we also, another thing is, we always have, like our unconference we always have childcare. And that's one of the reasons I call it the unconference, because it's not a typical conference, because childcare is a lot of times a barrier for women to attend things. Whether you're a single mom or married, it's just, hey, if I can bring my kids, I can have some time away from them, but then they can also be close. So we've always had that. But even our meetups, like if you got to bring the kiddos, of course, if they start to act up, you got to do something, you got to go. But, so,
right.
That's the thing. And we got to have stuff in the evening, not during the day. And I think that's too, a lot of times these veteran groups, which I think, they're starting to get it, but if you do something Wednesday at, 12 o'clock, it's hard for women, to go to certain things. So you got to make sure that you're doing it around what works for them, and also being consistent. That's a big thing. So we had chapters, we expanded chapters in the state, then we expanded to chapters outside the state, then COVID hit, then we pulled that back. So we really don't, as of now, we don't have a chapter model. What I created is ways for us to promote and elevate other women veteran organizations. And that's why we created the Allies Directory that's on our website. And these are organizations or programs, Facebook groups that predominantly serve women. So if we can help elevate them and their mission and what they're doing and getting women connected to them.
I love that. Thank you so much for doing that. Like I said, it's much needed, because I do have some female veterans once in a while, and I'm like, okay, well, here's a group, but now that I know about your organization, we can definitely funnel them into the Women's Veterans Alliance, because like you said, it's important for the women to have that connection. And I love what you said about, what if somebody else needed you? Because we always think, oh, I'm good, I'm good. But yeah, what if somebody needed you?
Yep. That's the thing. So, and I think too, we have to also feel comfortable enough where we can say stuff like that. I don't hesitate to say stuff.
Right.
Stuff needs to be said.
Right. Absolutely. I know, Dr. J, you were saying something, but you're muted, so we didn't hear you.
Yeah, I think my computer is relearning how to work. Anyway, sorry about that. Yeah, I was talking, I mean, in the state of Florida alone, we have 144,000 female veterans. And there has to be some things for them to do, to get together, to serve others, because we're nurturers by nature. And like you said, when you reframe it in such a way, it's like, well, what if someone needs you? It's like, whoa. And I bet she showed up, didn't she?
She did.
Exactly.
She sure did.
Because
And
we are the
unfortunately-
person. It's like, I'm good, take care of the next person. I'm good, take care of the next person. That's kind of what we do. I mean, that's absolutely what I do for a living. So,
right, we have to take care of ourselves. We have to also make sure we're filling our cups, and that's also too one of the things that the way I designed the unconference is for there to be activities and things that are happening that are filling each person's cup.
yeah.
So, and that's again what makes ours unique. Whether it's we do wine tasting, we bring local cosmetology schools to do hair and makeup. We've done dancing. We bring horses for equine therapy. I mean, a couple of years we were on a golf course, the resort, and we brought a golf pro in to show women things. So it's things, right? It's like if I just had the time, I would do that. So why not be able to offer those women so that way they can fill up their cup and they can be even better, with their families and other people if they can continue to do that. And also too, don't just come to the conference is just promoting, but also too, with me being a leader, I need to also practice what I preach. And I didn't utilize my VA. Yeah, I used my GI Bill and home loan, but as far as like getting my disability rate and all that stuff, I didn't do that until I started this, because if I'm going to say it, I better damn well be doing it. So I did, even though my dad and my husband always say, you got to go to the VA, you got to get registered, and you got to do this and that. So I'm like, okay, let me go do that. Let me get registered for my health care. And then let me, do the whole process of my disability rating, which, it's like, oh, I should have did it a long time ago, but it's okay. But now I can help others.
That's awesome. So you did mention your book briefly. I would like you to expand upon that.
Yes.
What is
so
your book about,
yes,
and what
my
drove
book,
you to write?
10 years ago. It's like all this 10 years. So that is 10 years ago. I published my first book called Get Back to Work. And it all started from a job seeker checklist that I created in 2010. So I got laid off in 2009 when I was working at Oracle. It's when the economy was, downturning, got laid off, ended up teaching LinkedIn workshops at my dining room table, got involved with the job seekers group and leading that job seekers group. And one of the things is I would create these checklists, a checklist, because people say, oh, what do I need to do to find a job? Because there's so many great people that didn't have a job, managerial positions, all different levels. And so I created this. And so that's actually the appendix in my Get Back to Work. So I figure, okay, how can I reach more people? And then I had, it's like, okay, well, let's just write the book. Of course, there's a lot of stuff that's still relevant today. Probably the most thing that's not specifically relevant is LinkedIn, even though it's my longest chapter, because that's what I know. And with that chapter, because things have changed as far as the system functionalities of LinkedIn, but the process is still the same. And I wanted to call it Get Back to Work because it's the same principles if you're looking for a job, a 9-to-5, or even if you have a business, right? Even if you're out there, you still have to have your branding statement, whether it's your, your business cards. I mean, now more social media, it's all the same stuff with that. So and what I did too is I also interweaved things that are specifically for veterans and spouses throughout the book. My plan was to do version 2 this year since it was 10 years, but that really didn't work out. So it is available on Amazon.com. My book. Yes.
Love it. Congratulations on being an author. I know that is a feat in itself right there. And, I'm so glad that you were able to get that out there. So that's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, that was my first one. And then 2 years ago, I was part of an anthology series of 20 other authors. And it was great because the book wasn't specifically focused on veterans. It was called Unstoppable. And it was it's just focused on women and their entrepreneurial spirits, being entrepreneurs. Yes, and it's the tagline does have the F word in it, but the U is start out. But it also is available on Amazon.com.
We're good with that.
I love that. Okay, so I'm getting Unstoppable everywhere because the name of my very first show is Unstoppable Overcomers. And then I know people that have been in the Unstoppable, there's an Unstoppable book series that I know a couple people in. So that's funny that you said that. Unstoppable and Fearless and all these great things. So I love that this keeps coming up. So
Well, but hey, they can't stop us. Yeah,
that's right. Can't stop it. Can't touch this and can't stop it.
there we go.
That's awesome. I love that.
Yes. I have a question here. What is the one thing that most people don't know about you?
Yeah, that's a good question. People don't know about me. But I'm pretty transparent. I'm pretty.
We hear that a lot.
I was going to say, I hear that at every episode.
Yeah. Well, probably a lot of people don't know. Even though I had met who would be my husband, I ended up marrying somebody else. So now that people know that, because I call it like the drive-through marriage. We kind of got married. I got stationed in San Diego and he didn't move out with me and we got divorced. So yeah.
Oh,
There you go. That's something
there
I don't share. So whoever's listening, now they know.
Well, it obviously clearly worked out for the next guy. So
Yeah, I did. Yeah, 30 years, I would say so. Yeah.
I would think so.
Yeah. Most of us have a startup marriage.
Right? Yeah, it's like a little testing. Yeah.
But there are a lot of us. You gotta have that run through.
Well, and good for you though. 30 years in a military marriage. That says a lot right there.
Yeah. So half of it he was in because he's been out now, retired from the military, working on his second retirement, 16 years. So half of that was in, and then half of it as him being retired.
Wow.
That's some perseverance right there. Like that deserves an award and a clap. Everything.
Yes. And it all hasn't been roses either. So yes. So I don't, it's like I could either be like, it's not that crazy to be a Lifetime movie, but it's not that like cheery to be a Hallmark movie. Like if you can have like something in between, that would be perfect for me.
I love that. Not a Hallmark movie.
Yeah.
Well, in Lifetime, it's like it's all somebody killing somebody or doing something or impersonating, doing some crazy stuff, and nobody killed each other. So I mean,
there we go. That is saying something. I love it, and I think if we're all honest, that's most marriages. Because not one marriage that I know has been absolutely perfect. No. My parents were married for 47 years before my dad died. So. And there was a period of time where they were actually separated for a couple months. So, I mean, every marriage has its thorns.
Yeah.
Well, and you have 8 billion individuals on the planet. So if none of us are the same, how can the marriage be perfect?
Right? Yeah.
That is true.
It's not realistic. So
no, it's not. Yeah. So, and then you just have to, the biggest thing too, you got to realize there's some things that I'm not going to change about him, and there's some things not going to change about me. So, why even continue to try? So, because some things, I've stopped doing, but then sometimes he just comes around with a certain thing. Then it's like, oh, wow, I didn't even try. And here you are doing these things that I can't change the way he grew up, with all these things and military and all that kind of stuff. So we're kind of at this point, we're like just with each other. I mean, yeah, you can go off and do your thing. I go off and do my thing. I don't know. We have, it's understanding. And, one of the first things too is always in a marriage, don't have the same checking account, because that was not smart in the beginning. And I see you have your fur baby, and mine, he's right here.
Yes, he always pops in at the end of the show.
Aww.
Well, he's got a little sister, and she decided to wander up here. And when she did, he's like, "Oh no, That's my mama, and you can have hers.
Uh,
She got down, he got up. So Shadow, and he's all black, and then Luna, and she's all gray. She's like a
Aw.
charcoal. So you might have saw her tail just kind of
I did.
flap. But
I
it's
did.
because I got him. I adopted him from the SPCA here locally, and I just couldn't imagine him being with that because he blocked me from every other cat in there. Like I was taking him home, it was inevitable. And then I found out he had a sister at PetSmart, so of course I had to track her down and go get her. But I just didn't want him to be the only cat because then they're just too needy.
Yeah,
So-
I know. Well, yeah, he's still needy, but I think as Diego is a male cat, he is needy, and his sister is America. But we travel, lots too, and they've got each other.
Yeah.
While we're gone.
Yeah,
doing
they're
whatever
way
they
less
do.
lonely when I'm gone on my trips. So I really enjoy that because I don't have to worry about them, tearing up
Yeah.
the house and things. So that's nice.
Ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes. All right. Well, thank you, Melissa, so much for coming on the show. Is there
Absolutely.
anything else that you'd like to speak about or mention before we
I
wrap up?
just want to know what she does with her cape. But other than that, that's my wow. Like
Yeah.
you are the epitome of accomplishment. And
Oh.
my head goes off to you because, I am a female veteran and I am very hesitant to join organizations because they are very much central focused as opposed to service focused. Now there's some really, really good ones out there and I'm not knocking them all. I've had my good experiences and my bad experiences with a myriad of organizations. So what makes yours stands out more so than others?
Well, we're doing things differently. So we're not, you can't put us in the VFW Legion. We're not, that's not even us, that category. We are elevating women, and that's what we need to do. We need to change the narrative of women veterans, which we're doing. And how can we best elevate her? That's why I created a speaker directory to help, if people are looking for veteran speakers, primarily women, we've got speakers, we have author directories. So it's like, how can we find these ways to help her and elevate her, but also give her those connections with other women? I also have Women Veterans Alliance, and I have Women Veterans Giving, which is a nonprofit arm that I started. And we have a small business award that we give every quarter to women veterans that are looking to start or expand a business. So we also have that. So if we have any women entrepreneurs on here, definitely apply every quarter. We just awarded $2,500 to a woman veteran last quarter. So a lot of my mission is raising funds to be able to fund that for our women, but we just don't give her a check. Our 3 finalists also receive an assessment. They get a coach to be able to help them. So that's why I'm always just finding other things, ways, I published 3 magazines, Women Veterans California, Women Veterans Texas, and Women Veterans Pennsylvania. Me and my co-publisher put out those publications. Again, how can we elevate her? What better way to have women veterans on the cover of a publication?
That's amazing.
Love that. I just believe there's a comment.
People who are married to, just a second, Jeffrey. Sorry, dude. Hang on. We'll highlight him in a second. But, I want to commend you for being married to a service member definitely puts you in a different light. I'm a veteran, but we don't advocate. We don't advertise. We don't advocate. We don't recognize ourselves in any way, shape, or form. I can't tell you how many individuals I have personally counseled who do not acknowledge their own service status for the simple fact that their husband, is in the military, active duty, whatever the case may be. And I just think that's so sad,
It is, and we need to change that. And I've had conversations like with veteran service officers where the husband and wife come in there, right, to start his claim. And then they'll ask her, did you serve? And she said, yeah, but she says, we're just in here for him. No. See, that's, if I was in there, I'd be like, no, sister, let's get your DD-214 and let's get your stuff, right? Because there's no guarantee that he's always going to be there. And that's why I say, I'll always be a veteran. I mean, I can easily not be a spouse, right? So it's like, okay, what happens if he's not there? And that's why we need to make sure that we're taking care of our own and and if a woman veteran could hear that from another woman saying no, well, then there might be more of a push for her to do that. And I do that. I have a list of people. I'll follow back up with them. Like, okay, have you started your stuff? Because you got to do this. We got to take care of making sure women are taken care of, and that's where that empowerment piece comes from.
And that rating is your own.
Absolutely.
Like you did that. You were treated for that. That was your challenge that you had faced. Like, why on earth are you just allowing it to pass you by? That's your money.
100%. That's and it's yours. And that's what again we need to make sure we're sharing with women, especially in the dual service capacity too. That you need to have. I have my own health care, so if something were to happen with us, I got my own health care, VA health care. So I don't. Right, because a lot of times, I'm going to stay with my husband because I can't financially or help. But if you had your own VA stuff, that might it just empowers you even more so. In my opinion.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. Bring it to Florida. We got you. Like I said, 144,000 women who have served, who reside here. Well, I don't know about right now, but like in a week, we'll all be back. So
yes, we do have there are a couple groups that I know of. You have Hope for Veterans there, and then you have the Northeast Florida Women Veterans, but they're on our allies directory too of organizations. But you'd also know too, with women veteran groups, they have different focuses. Like some could be focused on homelessness, or some focused on suicide, or so there's all these different things that there's different focuses on, or some just they do volunteering in the community. So just finding that right group there, and that's why, like I said, we put that directory together so women can find these different organizations.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. I love that. So there you go, Dr. J. Plug into one. Get these 144,000 female veterans.
Yeah.
Could you imagine what that would do? That would be a whole movement right there.
Yeah, well, trust me, it takes a long time. I mean, you even look at the Women's Memorial. I mean, they have, I forgot what her number is as far as women that are even registered. They're not even, I think, at the million mark. And so if you've ever had 2 million women veterans that are alive, plus all the women that have passed,
right?
So we just need to share with women the importance of telling our story, and that's why, like the Women's Memorial and other things we can do to build our legacy, because if you think of all the women before us that never told their story, the ladies in World War II, the ladies in World War I, the ladies in Vietnam, they haven't told their story. We need to make sure we're sharing our story, regardless if you were in for 2 years, 3 years. If you didn't go anywhere, you have a story, right? That's your story, and you need to share that. However you share it.
By the way, badassery is
amazing. Yes, and it has a cool thing on the back. These are available on our website. We do have a whole store where we sell shirts, jewelry. We have the women Army soldiers, toy soldiers on there. So again, gotta have ways to elevate us. Veteran shirts. Yes.
Screw G.I. Joe. Get
Tia
Jane.
Right? That's right. Right.
I love that.
Yeah. But they're important. They're just as important, the men and the women, and a lot of the same challenge, and also too, I always make sure there are men that don't identify themselves as veterans too. And there are men that have been, victims of, sexual assault, PT. I mean, so there's a lot of those, but again, women were built different. We do have different needs. I mean, it's just that's a fact of life.
Right. Wow.
Absolutely.
Love that. We should all go get the t-shirt, guys. Go to www.womensveteransalliance.com and look up buy that t-shirt.
Click on the store. Click on the store and you'll see all kinds of stuff you can get. And we have membership too. You can become a member. We do have free membership and then paid membership and all the different benefits that come for both women veterans and our supporters as well.
Cool. Yes, women, go check that out. Even if you're not a veteran, if you're a civilian, go check it out. Help the women that get the help and the support that they need.
Yes.
I absolutely love that. And get your t-shirt, support the cause.
Yep, get those shirts.
Right now. I love it.
There's all kinds of other, trust me, You'll see all kinds of stuff on there. There's stuff for your kids on there. There's all kinds of stuff.
There's toys. Look at that. Bracelets. Of course, it says Navy, but I don't hold that against you.
Yeah, we got all branches of service products on there.
I see it. I'm teasing.
Yeah.
I love this. So Mr. Knight says, appreciate your work with veterans, Melissa, Dorothy, and Graham Odell, and Dr. Jay Royster, bringing the Unstoppable show, which is amazing. Jeffrey Knight's, he's pretty awesome, dude. We had him on, I think, 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago. Yes. He's founders of Angels 14. I don't know. Do you know Jeffrey at all, Melissa?
No, but I guess I need to get to know Jeffrey. We need to set up a call, Jeffrey.
I can set that up with you two on LinkedIn.
Yes.
As well as if you want to be in a unisex, both sexes, whatever you want to call it, they do have a Zoom call Fridays at noon, which I've been a part of that group for 3 years.
Oh,
So
yeah.
amazing camaraderie. It's more for camaraderie and connection for military, veterans, and first responders and their allies. I kind of was adopted into that group, and now I'm just like one of them. So yeah, we do meet Fridays at noon. If that's something, if you want to come on in.
If I'm able to, I would love to.
But I will also connect Jeffrey and you together too after. Just
Sounds
because two amazing dynamic people I think should meet.
There we go.
There we go. Awesome. Well, Melissa, I gotta say this is a lot of mic drop moments in here.
Yeah, not even drop the F-bomb.
That's okay. I mean, it usually happens.
I do that sometimes. I am guilty of that.
Yes, usually, yes, I do. So, but it's okay.
Did you have any last questions, Dr. J, for Melissa?
Just like, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
I have no idea. I didn't even see, if you asked me this 5 years, I wouldn't even say 5 years I'd be here. I don't know. No. We'll see. Whatever else we need to, whatever.
Let it go where it goes. Do you have any idea, any plan, any agenda, any forethought into it? Is that Diego?
This is Diego. Yes. Yes, he's a big baby. He's a big baby. Yes.
That's awesome. I love that.
We're just going to keep on growing. I mean, we're going to just, we still have to, there's still so much more to do to reach more women. And that's why, we just launched our global alliance last week, connecting with other women in other countries. And so there's endless amounts of work to do.
It's never ending when you're have a life of service. It continuously grows.
It does.
It's and that yeah, exactly. I totally get it. And I love everything that you're doing. Thank you so much for doing all that you do. Melissa just got back and now she's headed back out tomorrow. So,
yep.
I mean, I know she's rarely home out there serving, but stay safe. And especially if you ever decide to go to Florida.
Yeah, I'm scheduled to go to Florida next month, Orlando, but we should be good by then. So, yes.
I hope
so. Absolutely. Well, holler at me. You'll come up because that's pretty amazing. Like, I don't live that far from Orlando at all.
Oh, you don't? Okay. Yeah, I'll be there. At the staying at the Evermore Resort.
Yep. I know where that's at. That's awesome. Would love to. So Dr. Corvea actually spent 30 years as a licensed psychologist in Miami at a veterans clinic. So she really loves anytime the female veterans are highlighted because she's retired now. So she's seen like us grow through that. Right. And there was some American Legion events where I have been where they've celebrated females from like the Korean War, which was pretty amazing for them to sit up there and tell their story.
Yeah.
In the Florida, we actually had a state commander who was female. And in about 2 years, we're going to have another one who's actually Army Navy. So she's absolutely going to like shine. She's pretty amazing human being. So
we need, and that's, we need more women in those veteran organizations, right?
Yeah.
So like California, the state commander for VFW is a woman. And I'm a VFW member, like Lifetime American Legion, but we do need more women to serve in those roles.
I agree wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
And we just want to give a shout out to Caroline. Thank you so much, Caroline, for joining us tonight. We appreciate you.
Yeah,
I know at the beginning we had a little bit of a connection issue, but we got it we got it back. We're good. Thanks for bearing with us. Dr. J was just through a hurricane, so we have to give her some grace.
Yeah, it's okay. We'll blame it on Milton. Yeah.
Yes, Milton's there's lots and lots of water here. Luckily, I'm pretty elevated, but it hit us set on. So it was very interesting to, as it goes through Sarasota, Tampa, it was category 3, and then it kind of de-escalated little by little, and it slowed down, but the winds were still 75 miles an hour, throwing all kinds of things. Luckily, I live in an area that's walled off, so we are very blessed to be here. But still, category 2 hurricane was a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm glad you were here with us today.
And I had no idea what to expect, so it was very interesting for me. I'm sure next time I'm going to be like, meh, no problem.
Yeah.
But luckily, I don't live on the Gulf side or the Atlantic side. So people keep asking me, when are you moving to Tampa? I'm like, hey, did you just see what happened in the past 20 days here? No, I'm good. I'll stay in the middle. Thanks.
Yeah.
Lessons learned.
And we're connected on LinkedIn. So if anybody on here too, I'm on LinkedIn, Connect, social media, and other platforms.
Yes.
Perfect.
Well, I'm looking at your website right now. You got some pretty amazing merch.
Yes.
Very cool.
Dr. J loves to shop and ship, so she's on there.
We got car decal. We got women veteran stickers. I have them on my laptop, my luggage, so people know especially on my luggage when I'm going through the airport. Yeah.
That's very cool. I love that.
That is a good idea. It's funny because I have a shirt that says support veterans, and so when I went to go see Dr. J in Florida, I wore that through the airport that day, and not one person said anything to me. I was kind of shocked.
Yeah, I wear every time I travel, and I travel a lot, something that says women veteran, or maybe one this year.
Right.
But it's planting the seed. It's in their subconscious because they do look at the shirt, right? So it's going there, right? But it's they're processing. They're like, is that a veteran? They're processing. So it's okay. I'm doing my job.
I love that. It's awesome.
But I do it though. The reason I do it is because if there's another woman veteran in there, hopefully she'll see the shirt, right? And then she'll come up to me and say, hey, or something, so it's kind of that's like, hey, I'm here. And if anyone's there, I'm not looking for thank you for your service, kind of thing. It's more finding my sisters out there in the airport.
Well, that's why I say you're worth it as a response, because that really gives them something. They're like, whoa, you just made that about me. Mm-hmm. And they sit with that. And then they're not asking, they don't ask any more questions, which is great.
Yeah, I know. Then you got to go, where did you serve and how long? And then they'll start telling you about their grandpa and everybody else that served and why they didn't serve. So then you got to get to all that. So, yeah. And then time is
I like assuming with your first mistake. That's a pretty epic t-shirt.
Yes. There's plenty of stuff there. I'm sure you're going to keep busy for a little bit there.
Yeah, I'm digging this a lot.
Jeffrey says it's all about the connection.
Yay.
I love it. Love it. Love it. All right, ladies. Well, I just want to thank you so much for being on here tonight, and for all of our amazing guests that joined, and for those of you that will join us on the replay. Go check out Melissa's website, either melissawashington.com or Women's Veterans Alliance. Go check that out, especially if you're a female veteran or active duty female. Please go check that out.
Absolutely. Melissa's got a huge brain with lots of ways to help you connect and serve and take care of you in the best way. I'm very excited to connect with her on LinkedIn, even though I don't do much on LinkedIn, but I will connect with her on LinkedIn.
Okay. Well, if you're on Instagram, Facebook, I'm there too. Yeah.
Awesome.
I'm there. Awesome. Well, thank you both. I appreciate this. Actually, last hour we've been talking. So greatly appreciate
Yeah.
it.
Very
Yes.
cool. Well, I want to, send prayers to everybody in the Tampa area and in the hurricane area, and, be safe. You are most important, not your stuff. So I want to put that out there because a lot of people lost a lot of things, and I understand how that can be devastating, but that can be replaced. You can't. So take your
Absolutely.
time coming back. Be safe. Take care of you. Take care of your family, and then worry about your material goods later.
And definitely, and people follow us on social media. We've been posting. The VA has resources. The SBA has resources. We have we put it out today too. Lady Vet Connect in Kentucky is offering free, housing support for those like are in Tennessee and other places that can get over there. So there's stuff out there. You just gotta, have the right people to connect to get you connected.
Oh, absolutely.
I
Well,
love
thank
that.
you, Melissa.
All right.
You're a godsend, and I'm looking so forward to see what you do next. Like,
All
this is
right.
going to be amazing.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you both.
Absolutely. All right, guys, stay safe and see you at the same time, same channel next week. Bye
All
for
right.
now.
Bye.